Okay, good morning. My name is Mario Lopez, and this is my presentation about strategies to teach English to children with learning disabilities. And my presentation is superhero washing line, right? Superhero washing line. Well, my first slide is about my objectives for this presentation. My first objective is describe what a disability is and how manage it in a classroom. Number two, describe the fundamental principle of disability. Number three, identify the type of disability that exists and identify the strategies that the teacher should use to treat children with disabilities, right? We have four objectives for this presentation. I move on to the next slide, and the next slide is about what is a disability. And the first slide represents the Superman custom, right? The Superman custom. What is a disability? Okay, disability is a physical or mental condition that limits a person's movement, senses, or activities normally, right? But is in general way. In a specific way with children with learning disability uh, is the term means a disorder in one or more of the basic psychological processes involved in understanding or in using language, spoken or reading, that may manifest itself in an imperfect ability to listen, think, speak, read, write, spell, or do mathematical calculation, including conditions such as perceptual disabilities, brain injury, minimal brain dysfunction, dyslexia, and developmental aphasia, right? And let's hang up the Superman custom. And I move on the next slide. All right. The next slide represents the flash custom, right? Flash custom, type of learning disabilities. We have auditory processing disorders, dyscalculia arithmetic disorder, dysgraphia reading disorders, dyslexia reading disorders, dysorthographia spelling disorder, nonverbal learning disabilities, organizational learning disorders, social disorders, and visual processing disorder, right? Those are learning disabilities, right? And let's hang up the flash custom, right? And I move on the next activity or the next slide. Right, right. The next slide is about what's the story behind teaching children with disabilities, right? What is the story? Why a teacher focus in disabilities or learning disabilities of children? Okay, 2.9 million students are receiving special education services for learning disability in the United States. 2.9 million of students. Wow, it's expensive, right? The majority, 85% of all individuals with learning disability have difficulty in the area of reading, right? Reading is the most important learning disability that teacher must know, right? Parents who notice their child exhibiting signs of difficulty with learning, 44% waited a year or more before acknowledging your child might have a serious problem. 45% waited a year or more. Wow, it's very interesting, right? Uh, Two-thirds of high school graduates with a learning disability were rated not qualified to enter a 4-year college. Wow. 2/3 of high school graduates. It's very interesting. Uh, it's very interesting date. Learning disabilities are not the same as mental retardation, autism, hearing or vision impairment, physical disabilities, emotional disorder, or the normal process of learning a second language, right? The learning disabilities are not the same, it's different. For that reason, many teachers work with children with uh, these learning disabilities, and all teachers around the world must know how to treat those students at the school, right? Okay, and let's hang up the Spider-Man custom, right? And I move on the next slide. The next slide represents the Batman custom, right? Batman custom. What are the underlying principles of learning disabilities? Okay, number one, people with learning disabilities are capable and intelligent. Pay attention, right? People with learning disabilities are capable and intelligent. People with learning disabilities have the right to full participation all the time. There are laws and regulations that protect people with disabilities in our country, for example, a Constitution of El Salvador, a Código Penal, el PINA, etc. Education must be inclusive. All the time, education for those people must be inclusive, right? And I let's hang up the Batman custom, right? We have four custom: Superman, Flash, Spider-Man, and Batman. And I move on the next slide. The next slide represents we other superhero, the Supergirl, right? What should teacher keep an eye on when teaching children with disabilities? Number one, to the student reaction when teaching a topic, right? What is the reaction of those children? Number two, how a student sees himself emotionally, right? The feeling or emotions is very important, right? To pay attention all the time. What is what is here or what is his or her social behavior with other students? It's very important. And periodically analyze their learning process in the classroom, right? And let's hang up the support your custom, and I move on the next activity. At the next slide. The next slide is how can teacher become effective when teaching EFO to children with learning disabilities, right? Number one, use appropriate tools for those children. Use visual aids like realia, flashcard, videos, etc. Establish routines for those children. Use formative assessment, it's very important. Use alternative assignment for those children, and develop relationship with those children. For me, it's very important. Develop relationship with those children. And I hung up the Robin custom because this slide represents the Robin custom, right? And the last slide is about which specific practice can a teacher employ to support a student with learning disabilities. Number one is most important for me, motivation. Number two, try to get the student to participate in the classroom. Number three, use audiovisual materials. Number three, help the student correct their own mistakes. Number five, reduce the noise level. And the last, physical proximity help the student to focus, right? It's very important. And let's hang up the Captain America custom, right? All right, and thank you for your attention. This is my presentation about children with learning disabilities. And if you have any question, go ahead. Thank you for your attention. Very nice with a superhero washing line. Goodbye, and see you soon.